Hey there, it's Brad Simons of 4 Player Network, and I'm here with Bob. You know Bob. Bob of Next Gen Pants, Bob of Cocktail Time, and of course Bob of also 4 Player Network. What's up, Bob?
Not much, just busy and crazy before PAX.
Oh God, yeah, PAX. Well, it's before PAX, and I played your first game, Tetropolis, and we're here to talk about it a little bit.
Yes, you got a kind of a sample of the new content we're bringing to our PAX build, which is all kind of a culmination from all the feedback we had from GDC.
Gotcha. Well, what is Tetropolis, Bob?
So Tetropolis, in a word, is a tetroidvania, which is kind of a mashup between a falling block puzzle genre meets Castlevania Metroid. Uh,
I never heard of it. Castlevania.
of
This
course.
is
Yeah,
yeah.
it's weird.
You told me about this concept like a year ago or so, and I thought it was like the coolest thing ever. I love Castlevania, you know that, and I love Metroid. I almost feel like you made this game for me, Bob, but I know it's not true.
Well, the joke might have actually been coming up with crazy games that you and I liked, because it was a joke when we were first talking about it.
Right? I bet when you first started designing this game, you were like, well, of course we're going to do a Metroidvania. Metroidvanias are the best games.
Of course, and there needs underwater exploration too.
Wait, is there going to be underwater in Tetropolis, Bob?
I can't talk about that yet.
Damn it. Okay. Well, okay, so it's a Tetroidvania. Does that mean, open-ended, explore, power-ups, secrets, stuff like that?
Yeah, so you play as a little tetromino that's comes out of a factory that creates these puzzle pieces for a falling block puzzle game, and your character, as you go through the world, you acquire new abilities that allow you to traverse the world in different ways and access areas you couldn't get before. So there's that whole Metroidvania style of gated progression.
Gotcha, gotcha. And this is a Tetris. Okay, so how afraid are we of using the word Tetris in any form? Curious about that.
Well, I don't use that word really to describe much of the game because come on, that's copyrighted. But
well,
falling block puzzles and tetrominos are not.
well, what is tetromino? Is that like a real
Yeah.
geometrical
Well, it's Tetris,
word?
so four, and then domino, which is a domino, which is a two piece puzzle piece. It's tetromino is a four puzzle piece.
Gotcha. I got to be honest with you, Bob. I didn't expect this game to be all like dark and mysterious. When did that happen? Was that the plan from the beginning to make this like dark and I mean there's some fucked up signs on the wall.
Yeah, those just got put in this last week. Maybe we might tone that back a little bit.
No, that's I'm not used to dark fucked up falling block games.
Well, that's kind of the whole theme behind the game that kind of surfaced over designing it and coming up with the story is that it's a contrast. It's a very large contrast, especially in the visual aspect of the game, where there's a very vibrant, very light pieces that you're playing. The character self is self-illuminated, so he's very bright, very vibrant, and there's these kind of really light, cheery aspects to it. Plus, on top of that, you got all these really dark and overbearing factory machines and enemies, and kind of having that really strange alien feeling to the world, and having the contrast was just kind of a overrunning theme, and especially story-wise as well.
Yeah, no, I like it. I was totally like as soon as the game started, I was kind of getting some World of Goo vibes. Have you played World of Goo?
Oh yeah.
Oh man, I love that. I love that game. And yeah, I like the tone that's going here. I'm curious as to like Tetropolis. That refers to like, I mean, that's a play on Metropolis, a city.
Yeah.
Are you, is the game gonna take place mostly in a factory, or are we gonna get out into a
No,
city
it's
maybe?
so the demo you played, the world's kind of made up these maps that are interconnected,
Yeah.
and each map has its kind of own theme and its own place in the city. So there's the overall plan is eventually to have four of these large scale maps connected to each other that you'll be traversing through.
So the map is definitely one of the, what I thought was one of the cooler hooks, where I was kind of putting together the pieces of my, Metroid style map, which is kind of the hooks of those games, and I like how I feel like it'll lead into some exploration, or especially discovering of secrets or whatnot. I mean, how concerned are you that players just might not be able to, no pun intended, kind of put those pieces together?
Well, we saw a lot of people spending a lot of time on that map, and most people were able to get to achieve some pathway. There's a lot of limitations that you can't just connect any rooms together when you're moving the maps around.
Hmm.
So there is definitely a limit to what you can do with them. But we had people create paths we didn't even consider possible, and
Wow, see, that's cool. Like, I mean, that kind of would play it. One of the big thing about Metroidvanias is almost kind of like sequence breaking. You
yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean? Like in speedrunning, because of that, that'd be cool if you could just make a shape and just completely, like, subvert
Yeah, we had
the intended
people
progression of the game.
we had people beat it without even picking up one of the power-ups. Like
It was a pretty cool I mean, I guess it was kind of like a reveal of how these mechanics would work when I saw that first power up, and it was like two doors and one switch, and I'm like, wait a minute, how do I get that other switch? And I
yeah.
was like, flip the piece. Yeah, that was a pretty cool moment, and if there's more stuff like that, it's definitely would make exploring the world intriguing. I also really like how you can zoom in on the pieces of the map as you're moving them around.
Yeah.
That was a really, really cool effect, because you can kind of see like crates and stuff kind of bouncing around and flipping around, and I feel like without that, I'd maybe be pretty lost as to what's going on in that world, but that gives you a real good sense of just kind of what you're doing to that world,
Yeah, I
which.
mean it's kind of essential later on because we introduced really simple puzzle mechanics in this game, this demo, and just positioning rooms so you can get through and flipping a room over so you can get to the other side. But we're planning on having more complex puzzles and related to the putting rooms together in certain ways, like connecting power sources and being able to look into the rooms while you're doing that will give you a
Sure.
better like visual cue of like, oh, this is what's happening. And especially we have been fooling around with the fluid engine that allows us to like pour fluids from one room to another, so you can kind of
Oh, that's right. I heard you
yeah
tweeting about fluid mechanics.
yeah
See, the keys to my heart, Bob. Oh, okay, so let's talk about mechanics a little bit. Um, is it a single mechanics tied to each block shape? And I'm assuming these block shapes might be similar to other block puzzle games of a
well, they're
similar.
pretty standard. I mean, there's only so many configurations you can have with the 4 blocks.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. And I really like the way the stomp feels on the square block, and then there's the long piece with the spring, and
Hmm.
and how you end up, like, I guess, tying those together. I had a when it clicked, and I sort of started to figure out, I could see the possibilities. I'm curious, like, how challenging do you think like a game, so there's a lot of platformers out there that rely on, like, really difficult twitch
Hmm.
platforming. Is that kind of what the goal of Tetropolis is? Because I feel like I don't know if it was just because I was learning, but I definitely saw the potential of, like, oh, this can be really difficult. I don't know if this is just a really tight jump, or I'm not good at it yet, but I definitely see the potential of, like, the difficulty ramping up, and you really kind of have to use all your abilities. Is that
Yeah, I
is
think when we do it more because obviously the having a really technical platformer, you need to have a character that controls very precisely.
Yes.
And with Tetropolis, we made it so a lot of the character is very clumsy in a sense, where we have actual torque being applied to the pieces that kind of fumbles them around. While it's all pseudo physics, so you still make it responsive. I don't think we're gonna really try to do a section where it's gonna require you to do really precise platforming because of that.
Yeah.
But
But
you know,
I could definitely see, like, certain players definitely being able to kind of, like, master
oh
those
yeah, like
basics, doing crazy shit.
yeah, we even with the time we spent at GDC, we saw people doing some really crazy stuff with the shapes and the precision, precisely jumping on one corner and then jumping onto another. And with the when you switch between pieces, you actually slow down time.
Which is incredibly smart. Yeah,
Yeah,
a
it
way
allows
of
you to,
handling that.
yeah, well, it gives you time to figure out, like, okay, I don't need to do this quick context change to another shape. I can press the menu, I can kind of see what's going on, I can change to the shape, and then I can execute on the other ability. Like you can do combos with these different shapes and their abilities. You can spring up, switch midair to a square, and then slam down. And
Yeah.
that's, they were planning on having these different chaining of the abilities, like even just the spring piece, the line piece. It's because of its shape, it allows you to do really neat things, like either fit through a tight spot and then you can switch into another piece, or you can even make yourself span as a square. You can go down a tight chute and then
Hmm.
switch into the line shape and span the gap and stop yourself mid fall.
Oh wow. See, man. Okay, that sounds really cool.
Yeah, actually,
Uh,
I didn't know you could do that until I went to GDC and saw someone do it.
well, when you design a system around physics, it's who knows what'll happen. But I will say, like, it really is all in the details, and I'm glad you're putting in the stuff like the slow mo and like the switching and stuff like that because you see a game like Little Big Planet, which is all physics based, and some people kind of shit on those mechanics,
Hmm.
but then there's games like Trials or whatever, which is also a kind of physics based platforming, but you know it's designed in such a way where people it totally has the capacity for people to kind of master it and perfect it and to do crazy things
Yeah, yeah,
and
and it seems like physics was the kind of the focused. The physics control was the focus rather than a secondary thing or a tertiary thing. Whereas
yeah,
like Little Big Planet, it's more about the world and the characters and the building of the world as opposed to the actual platform and mechanics.
yeah. So you know I- so on the uh on the map
Hmm.
I saw some areas that were locked out with like red lines
Yeah.
and whatnot. Is that just for the purposes of the demo, or is it did I not have the right like how is the can you talk a little bit about how the progression of the map will work in terms of just progressing through the game? I mean, are those pieces locked out like for the demo, or is it for like based on abilities or whatnot?
Well, we're right now they're blocked out because if they weren't locked out, you could actually do some things that would allow you to kind of sequence break the demo
Yeah,
and you make things way too easy for yourself. It's
gotcha.
mostly just a limiting factor, allowing us to make sure that we don't. You can't just move any room up to the control room and then just jump out and grab it, whatever's in there, and go back into the control room. That's the whole reason why when you're in the control room, you can't move the control room around. Otherwise, you just move yourself around the map and just kind of circumvent everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But hey, I'm excited to mess around with it some more. Um, what would you say? Okay, well, okay, this question's a little off topic. The intro to next gen, the pants intro.
Oh
Is
yeah,
that you saying pants?
yes.
Okay, I was like, it sounded like Bob, but I wasn't quite sure.
It was too
Um,
quiet otherwise. We got that in after we got the logo from the our graphics designer, and I just had it fade in and fade out, and I was like, God, we have to have something there. I don't care what it is. So I just whispered into the microphone, pets.
they are some pretty nice looking pants, I will say that. Um, so I don't know. I was talking to you a little bit before we started recording this, and I found out that I didn't read a couple of tooltips, and I was kind of boning things up a little bit. And I got to be honest with you, now I'm kind of excited to get back in there and mess around with the mechanics the correct way.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you saw when you picked up the slam ability,
Yeah.
you had that context menu that
Hmm.
allowed you to make the connection. Oh, I push this button, I slam, and also I break these doors. And that's kind of the direction we're trying to go with our the way we're handling tutorials. I mean, ideally, I would like to have no text in this game.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
obviously there's some Wally vibes here, and that's very
Hmm.
intentional since we wanted to have uh, no localization costs. No, I'm just kidding about that. But yeah, having allowing people to teach themselves the mechanics is a lot better than
For
just
sure.
telling them in a big blob of text. Because obviously, like with you totally missed how to use the spring jump,
Yeah.
and that's something we just threw in there because we didn't have enough time, but intend we do intend to have it where you'll actually go through a practice session and do the new mechanic, and that
Yeah.
gives you really and obviously reiterate that later on, so it really cements the lesson further on, allowing you to feel like, oh, I did this, I just did this thing and it makes me feel smart and I totally remember it. I rather
Those
than
are the tricky little details of game design that
hmm
maybe some people who play a lot of games don't realize how much work goes into, making sure people really know how to play the game. And you read a review and you're like, God, developers are probably, we worked so hard to make sure,
Yeah.
the player knew how to do this. And
Yeah, I mean, you know the map editor that went through. I think the one on this demo is like the fifth or the sixth iteration.
Mhm.
They
Oh,
because it just we were trying so many different things to get the allowing allow people to easily restructure the map while still allowing us to restrict what they can do, so we can't just give ultimate freedom to the player because that just makes it a design nightmare. And it's such a difficult thing to teach people how to use that. We had it like playing it like an actual Falling Blocks puzzle game where you had to place one room by every time you wanted to place a room, you had to do it in order, and that was awful. It was
well,
terrible.
it's cool how an idea can evolve over time. And you go into designing a game and you expect it to be one thing, but then through just experimenting, you come up with another cool idea, and then all of a sudden, something works better. And I guess that's what's cool about it. Well, what has been I guess the trickiest or most unexpected, or I don't know, just the most interesting part of designing Next Gen Pants' first game?
I definitely having the rooms, being able to move the map around has given us so much opportunity. Like it was one of those things where when we were first discussing a Tetroidvania, we were like, oh yeah, you're just gonna bounce around as a tetromino, and you can have these kind of key and lock things based on the different shapes you acquire. And that's just a reskinning of a Metroid, and it wasn't really that
Yeah.
interesting. And I remember being in the shower one day thinking about Symphony of the Night, and I was like, well, what was really cool about that is that when you get to the end, you get to play the map backwards, so it's upside down.
Yeah.
And I was like, ah, that was a really cool idea. I mean, it would be really great if we could have some way to, have the world change. And it just kind of clicked. I was like, oh crap, we can just make the rooms like tetrominos, and you connect them and make it really fucking cool. And that kind of opened up so many possibilities, especially in regards to a larger meta puzzle in the game. Like we were discussing, there's boss fights in the game. We're gonna actually have larger scale boss fights. Well, not like Shadow of the Colossus large, but where
Yeah.
they dwarf the player significantly in
Oh, that's
size.
cool.
And having the rooms, the way you connect, because you need to build pathways to the bosses,
Hmm.
and we're playing with the idea of how you connect the pathways is going to change that boss fight because there may be resources in that boss fight you wouldn't have had otherwise.
That's cool. That's cool. It's definitely to me, like, that's the exciting hook that makes me want to really explore this game. The idea was cool. That the concept of Tetroidvania was hilarious the first time I heard it.
Yeah, it's
But it was
ridiculous.
definitely seeing that the map moving around for the first time that really got me excited of like, wow, this is something different. This silly like pun or whatever is actually allowing the game to do something different from other Metroidvanias, which seems really cool. Um, so so I know you're now a starving indie developer. When are we going to be playing the final version of Tetropolis, Bob?
So we're gonna be looking, probably doing crowdfunding sometime this end December-ish.
Oh,
But
really?
yeah, possibly we're maybe doing a Kickstarter or something. We've been discussing it. But we're still kind of working on that because it's doing Kickstarter is a full-time job. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous how much work that goes into it. But we'll at this, depending on how much time we have, how large the game is going to be. Possibly sometime next spring in 2015. So we're
Cool.
hopefully doing that. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, real quick on Kickstarter, is there any fear, like, the more public you make this game and say, hey, help us out? Oh, I'm looking now at this footage and I see that damn piece that I should have moved over.
Yep.
Son of a bitch. Okay. Yeah, is there any fear of like the Tetris company going, hey, those pieces are a little familiar here?
Well, I mean, there's obviously there there's a degree of fair use. I mean, obviously, fair use is not
Yeah.
just like, oh, I'm gonna take this exact same thing and put it in my game because fair use.
Yeah.
We don't want to try to make it feel like we're ripping them off in any kind of regards. So
Well, I mean,
obviously,
you're not. I mean, a
well, yeah,
lot of
yeah.
puzzle games use these shapes. I'm pretty sure they didn't trademark the
Right,
shape.
right. I mean, it would, if it did come to that, I would rather try to partner with them and do something cool that way, because that would benefit both of us. But there's also there's ways around it that hopefully it won't come to.
Well, you know what? I'm a little bit impressed, Bob. I remember I had played like a short little tech demo-y thing, long ago
Yeah.
before you had, this was an idea, but way before it was formed, and I was like, this is all right, but it doesn't control all that well. But now that I've played it and all these mechanics are in there, and I'm seeing the way you move the map around, kind of excited, Bob. Kind of excited. Um, Now, Next Gen Pants as a company, you have other ideas floating around up there for future projects,
Uh,
or
yeah, I mean, this is the when we first started Next Gen Pants back a year ago, we started prototyping a bunch of games that were not Tetropolis,
that's
and there's
right.
a few that we might come back to and make as soon as we're finished with this game, and we'll probably end up doing another kind of jam within the company of coming up with a bunch of games and then just prototyping them and then seeing which one sticks.
Nice, nice. Underwater, I hear, is really popular for stuff.
We'll see.
Job class systems, I also recommend.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for your time, Bob, and thanks for letting me play the PAX demo before everyone else. That was really cool. And I sorry I can't be on PAX this year, but I guess say hi to the other guys for me.
Yeah, it's a bummer. It's kind of it's hoping everybody be able to get a chance to play it, and I'm glad you got a chance to play it before then.
For sure. Anyways, thanks for joining me, Bob of Next Gen Pants and of Cocktail Time. I will talk to you, I don't know, probably next week.
That sounds about right.
Good luck at PAX.
Thanks.
Later.